Good day, everyone. I am Eleanor Gino Campo, your discussant. My topic for today is Module 46, Exchange Rates and Macroeconomic Policy. So first, when the euro was created in 1999, there were celebrations across the nation of Europe, with a few notable exceptions. You see some countries who's not to adopt the new currency. The most important of these was Britain, but other European countries such as Switzerland and Sweden also decided that the euro was not for them. So in this topic, we have three subtopic: devaluation and revaluation of fixed exchange rates, monetary policy under a floating exchange rate regime, and lastly, the international business cycles. Now, let's talk about the devaluation and revaluation of fixed exchange rates. Fixed exchange rates haven't been permanent commitments. Sometimes countries with a fixed exchange rate switch to a floating rate. In other cases, they retain a fixed exchange rate but change the target exchange rate. Such adjustments in the target were common during the Bretton Woods era described in the upcoming economics in action. So, a reduction in the value of currency that is set under a fixed exchange rate regime is called devaluation. As we've already learned, a depression is a downward move in currency. A devaluation is depression that is due to revision in the fixed exchange rate target. Also, an increased rate in the value of currency that is set under a fixed exchange rate regime is called revaluation. A devaluation, like a depression, makes domestic goods cheaper in terms of foreign currency, which leads to higher export. At the same time, it makes foreign goods more expensive in terms of domestic currency, which reduces imports. The effect is to increase the balance of payment on the current account. Similarly, a revaluation makes domestic goods more expensive in terms of foreign currency, which reduces export and makes foreign goods cheaper in domestic currency, which increases import. Also, a revaluation reduces the balance of payment on the current account. So, in devaluation and revaluation, serve two purposes under the fixed exchange rate regime. First, they can be used to eliminate shortage or surpluses in foreign exchange market. For example, in 2010, some economists and politicians were arguing China to revalue the yuan because they believed that China's exchange rate policy unfairly aided Chinese export. China eventually took action at the end of 2011, discontinuing much of their exchange rate intervention and allowing the yuan gradually appreciate in value. Second, devaluation and revaluation can be used as a tool of macroeconomic policy. A devaluation by increasing export and reducing imports increases aggregate demand. So, a devaluation can be used to reduce or eliminate recessionary gap. Also, a revaluation has the opposite effect, reducing aggregate demand. So, a revaluation can be used to reduce or eliminate a inflationary gap. So next, from Bretton Woods to the euro. In 1944, while World War II was still lagging, representatives of the Allied nation met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to establish a post-war international monetary system of fixed exchange rates among major currencies. The system was highly successful at first, but it broke down in 1971 after a confusing interval during which policymakers tried unsuccessfully to establish a new fixed exchange rate system. By 1973, most economically advanced countries had moved
to a floating exchange rates. In Europe, however, many policymakers were unhappy with floating exchange rates, which they believe created too much uncertainty for business. From the late 1970s onward, they tried several times to create a system of more or less fixed exchange rates in Europe, culminating in an arrangement known as the exchange rate mechanism. This exchange rate mechanism was strictly speaking a target zone system. European exchange rates were free to move within a narrow band but not outside it. And in 1991, they agreed to move to the ultimate in a fixed exchange rates, a common European currency, the euro. To the surprise of many analysts, they pulled it off. Today, most of Europe has abandoned national currency from the euro. In the figure 46.1 illustrates the history of European exchange rate arrangements. It shows the exchange rate between the French francs and German mark, measured as a francs per mark from 1971 until their replacement by euro. The exchange rate fluctuated widely at first. The plate shows you can see in the data eras when the exchange rate fluctuated only modestly are periods when attempts to restore fixed exchange rate were in process. Exchange rate mechanism after a couple of false start became effective in 1987, stabilizing the exchange rate at above 3.4 francs mark. In 1999, the exchange rate was locked. No further fluctuation were allowed as the countries prepared to switch the francs and mark to the euro. At the end of 2001, the francs and the mark ceased to exist. The transaction to the euro has not been without cost. Countries that adopted the euro sacrificed some important policy tools, such as they could no longer tailor monetary policy to their specific economic circumstances or lower their costs relative to the European nations simply by letting their currencies depreciate. In 2013, the euro area remained under stress as many countries struggled to recover from severe recession following the 2008 financial crisis. Several nations, including Greece, Spain, and Italy, three big economies, were in such serious economic traits that economists and policymakers wondered about their ability to make critically important economic adjustment without defaulting on their debts and abandoning the euro. Next, monetary policy under floating exchange rate regime. Under a floating exchange rate regime, a country's central bank retains its ability to pursue independent monetary policy. It can increase aggregate demand by cutting the interest rate or decrease aggregate demand by raising the interest rate. But the exchange rate adds another dimension to the effects of monetary policy. Just as in a closed economy, a lower interest rate leads to higher investment in spending and higher consumer spending. But the decline in the interest rate also affects the foreign exchange market. Foreigners have the less incentives to move funds into Genovia because they will receive a lower rate of return on their loans. As a result, they have less need to exchange US dollars or for Genos, so the demand for Genos falls. At the same time, Genovanians have more incentive to move funds abroad because the rate of return of on loans at home has fallen, making investment outside the country more attractive. Thus, they need to exchange more genos for US dollars and the supply of genos rises. In the figure 46.2 shows the effect of interest rate reduction on the foreign exchange market. The demand curve for genos shift leftward from D1 to D2, and the supply curve shifts rightward from S1 to S2. The equilibrium exchange rate as measured in US dollars per genos fall from XR1 to XR2, that is a reduction from Genovanian interest rate causes the genos depreciate. The depression of the geno in return affect aggregate demand. We've already seen that a devaluation, a depression that is a result of change in fixed exchange rate increases exports and reduces import, thereby increasing aggregate demand. And a depression that results from an interest rate cut has the same effect in increases export and reduces imports, increasing aggregate demand. In other words, monetary policy under floating rates has effects beyond those we've described in looking at closed economies. In closed economy, a reduction in the exchange rate leads to a rise in aggregate demand because it leads to more investment spending and consumer spending. Also, in an open economy with floating exchange rate, the interest reduction leads to increased investment spending and consumer spending, but it also increases aggregate demand in other ways. It leads to the currency depression, which increases exports and reduces imports, further increasing aggregate demand. Lastly, the international business cycles. Up to this point, we have discussed macroeconomics even in an open economy, as if all demand changes or shocks originated from the domestic economy. In reality, economies sometimes face shocks coming from abroad. The key point in that exchange in aggregate demand affect the demand for goods and services produced abroad as well as at home. Other things equal, a recession leads to a fall in imports and an expansion lead to a rise in imports, and one country imports or another country's export. This link between aggregate demand in different national economies is one reason business cycle in different countries sometimes, but not always, seem to be synchronized. The prime example in the Great Depression, which affect countries around the world. The extent of this link depends on the exchange rate regime. To see why things about what happened if a recession abroad reduced the demand of Genovia's exports, and a reduction in foreign demand of Genovians' goods and services is also a reduction in demand for Genos on the foreign exchange market. If Genovia has a fixed exchange rate, it responds to the decline with exchange market intervention. But if Genovia has a floating exchange rate, the Geno depreciates because Genovians' goods and services become cheaper to foreigners. When the demand from export falls, the quantity of goods and services exported doesn't fall by as much it would under a fixed exchange rate. At the same time, the fall in the Geno makes import more expensive to Genovians, leading to fall in import. One of virtues of floating exchange rates, according to their advocates, is that they help insulate countries from recessions originating abroad. This theory looked pretty good in the early 20s. Britain, with a floating exchange rate, managed to stay out of recession that affect the rest of Europe, and Canada, which also has a floating rate suffered a less severe recession than the United States. In 2008, the financial crisis that began in the United States produced a recession in virtually every country. In this case, it appears that the international leakage between financial markets were much stronger than any insulation from the overseas disturbances provided by floating exchange rates.
And that would be all. Thank you and God bless.